Imagine an industry where, where 93% of the people who walk through the door just fail. Like they leave empty-handed, totally frustrated, and usually a few $100s poorer.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Right. But then imagine that same industry just paid out nearly $600 million to the 7% who actually survived. So welcome to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we are taking a massive stack of industry data, insider research notes, and platform metrics to decode this completely chaotic, highly lucrative, and honestly deeply misunderstood world of proprietary trading firms, or, prop firms.
Right, the prop firm space. It's a lot to navigate.
Oh, absolutely. Right now, there are over 200 of these entities out there just screaming for your attention. They promise you huge capital funding if you can just, pass their evaluations. So our mission today is to figure out how that massive gap between the failure rate and the payout numbers actually functions.
Yeah, and it really is a staggering divide, right? It requires a pretty methodical approach to actually understand. So, we are going to cut straight through all that aggressive marketing noise today.
Please do, because it is loud out there.
Exactly. And to be clear, our objective here isn't to point you toward, like, one magical best firm. The data from our sources tells us pretty definitively that a universal best firm simply doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Not at all. Instead, we're going to equip you with what we call a three-factor framework. It's this highly structured method to help you find the specific firm that actually matches your unique operational profile.
Rather than just picking whoever bought the most ad space on your social media feed.
Exactly, yeah. You can't just follow the ads.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have an industry handing out $500 million, yet it's essentially a graveyard for retail traders. I mean, we really need to look at the actual casualty rate before we can even talk about applying this framework.
For sure. The landscape isn't just difficult. The underlying architecture of these firms seems mathematically engineered to filter people out.
Right.
So the attrition rate is really the defining characteristic of the entire prop firm model. Let's establish the industry context here. Out of those 200-plus prop firms currently operating, over 80 of them closed their doors entirely in 2024.
Wow, 80. That's huge.
It's massive. And our sources show this trend of closures, which, by the way, are often sudden and totally catastrophic for the traders involved. It's continuing right through into 2026. So it's a highly volatile business environment.
That sounds like the Wild West.
Oh, it really is. And for the traders themselves, the statistics are incredibly sobering. The evaluations are rigorous, obviously. And only about 5 to 10% of traders even pass those initial tests.
It's just 5 to 10%.
Yep. And it gets worse. Out of everyone who enters the ecosystem, a dismal 7% ever see an actual payout to their bank account.
Wait, I have to synthesize this because there is a wild contradiction sitting right here in the research.
Okay, lay it out.
If this space is practically a meat grinder and only 7% are getting paid, how do we explain the fact that Apex Trader Funding has distributed a massive $598 million in payouts since 2022? Those two realities feel, I don't know, totally mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I get that. They seem contradictory until you look at the behaviors of the two different groups, you know? The 7% who are actually pulling down those huge consistent payouts are playing an entirely different game.
Okay, how so?
Well, they aren't just getting lucky on a random string of trades. They fundamentally understand the systemic architecture of the firm they are partnered with. Like, they trade in total alignment with the rules.
And the other 93%.
The 93% who fail are largely making their choices based on marketing instead of compatibility. And the data tracks this behavior super clearly.
What does the data say?
It shows the average trader is spending roughly $800 across 3 different challenge attempts per firm before they either finally succeed or just burn out entirely.
Man, it functions like an incredibly expensive tuition fee at the School of Trial and Error.
That's exactly what it is.
You have these traders stepping up, paying evaluation fees, and essentially trying to force their specific, operational style onto a firm whose rules are mechanically designed to punish that exact style.
Right. They are paying that $800 just to realize the environment was hostile to their strategy from day one.
Which is brutal.
It is, and that's the core problem we are solving today. Because to start paying that tuition fee, you must apply the 3-factor framework.
Okay, let's get into it. What's the first step?
The very first pillar of that framework is budget analysis. So before you install a platform, before you analyze Analyze a single chart, and certainly before you place a trade, you have to establish the true financial cost of engagement.
The word true is doing some heavy lifting there, I think. Because when I look at the pricing pages for these firms, I literally just see the challenge fee.
Oh yeah, the sticker price.
Exactly. But the research notes make it clear that a functional budget has to include a lot more than just that sticker price to take the test.
Right, and evaluating based solely on the challenge fee is the first major trap. A realistic operational budget absolutely has to account for resets.
Because of that 3-attempt average you mentioned.
Exactly. If your budget doesn't account for 3 attempts, you are operating under a statistical delusion. You also have to factor in platform fees because sometimes the software isn't free and those ongoing monthly data charges.
Which can quietly drain your account if you take weeks to pass the evaluation.
Right. Oh, 100%. They'll sneak up on you.
And looking at the variance in pricing across the industry, I mean, it is massive. You can get a micro $5,000 account, and the challenge fee might run anywhere from $15 to $36.
Right. Very accessible.
But if you want to swing for the fences and get a $200,000 account, you are dropping between $799 and $999 just for the privilege of taking the test once.
Yeah, the barrier to entry scales aggressively with the capital they're providing.
So let me challenge this logic for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Let's say I am a highly disciplined trader. Like my backtesting is flawless, I've got my edge totally defined, and I'm sitting on exactly $1,000 of risk capital.
Okay.
Why wouldn't I just scrape together that $999, buy the $200,000 account, and maximize my potential upside immediately? Like, why mess around with $30 micro accounts?
Well, this raises an important question, and it actually highlights a massive psychological blind spot that trips up even veteran traders.
Oh, really?
Because executing flawlessly in a simulated, consequence-free environment is entirely different from executing under the psychological pressure of a live prop firm evaluation with, strict daily loss limits.
Yeah, that makes sense. The pressure is real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you blow your entire $1,000 budget on a single attempt at a massive account, you have zero margin for error. A true budget requires a buffer.
Because of that learning curve.
Right. If the data dictates the average trader needs 3 attempts to adapt to the firm's specific execution environment, and you only budget for 1, well, you are mathematically volunteering to be part of the 93% who fail.
Wow. So you must construct a financial runway that allows you to absorb a failure, recalibrate, and try again without devastating your personal finances.
That is the only way to survive Pillar 1.
You essentially have to underwrite your own learning curve. You build the statistical likelihood of failure into the budget from day one. All right, so let's say you map out the budget. You know your runway. You account for the data fees, the resets.
Then we move to Pillar 2, strategy type matching.
Right, because the biggest budget in the world is completely useless if your trading strategy inadvertently triggers a breach of contract.
This is where so many traders disqualify themselves on day one without even realizing it. Like, you must audit a firm's rulebook against your specific methodology.
It's basically like dating, right? You wouldn't marry someone who hates mornings if you're a diehard early bird. You can't sign with a firm that bans overnight holds if your entire edge relies on swing trading.
That's actually a perfect analogy. The rules dictate survival. Let's look at a few common strategies and the hidden landmines associated with them, starting with scalpers.
Okay, the fast-paced guys.
Exactly. If your methodology involves high-frequency entries and exits to capture tiny price movements, you absolutely must verify that the firm does not enforce minimum trade duration rules.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because you read the marketing and it says, trade your way, no restrictions.
Right, they all say that.
But then you dig into the terms of service, and they have a rule stating a trade must remain open for a minimum of 2 minutes to be considered valid.
Yeah, it's buried right there in the fine print.
And the wildest part about those minimum duration rules, they aren't there for risk management. They are surgically implemented to deny the very trades that algorithmic and high-frequency systems execute best.
Exactly. If your edge relies on a 45-second momentum burst, the firm will simply delete your profits, or they'll flag your account for a breach.
It just completely invalidates the trader's entire methodology.
They are structurally incompatible. Now, contrast that with a swing trader. This trader operates on a much longer time horizon, capturing macroeconomic trends.
So they need totally different allowances.
Exactly. For them, they absolutely require allowances for holding trades overnight and, critically, over the weekend.
Right, and the research shows that many of these budget-friendly prop firms deploy automated risk software that forcefully liquidates all open positions on Friday afternoon right before the market closes.
Yep, usually around 3:45 p.m.
Which is crazy. If you haven't checked for that specific allowance, your carefully planned, multi-day setup gets forcefully closed by a server script, often triggering a massive loss just because of the timing.
And that forced liquidation can instantly breach the account. You have to ensure the firm's holding policies align with your time horizons.
Okay, so that's scalpels and swing traders.
Yeah.
What about standard day traders?
So day traders, they aren't in and out in seconds like scalpers, but they don't hold over the weekend either. They operate purely intraday. For them, the most critical, often completely overlooked detail is the firm's end of day, or EOD, policy.
Man, this part of the research just blew my mind. Because I always assumed end of day just meant midnight wherever I happen to live.
Oh, definitely not. Brokers operate on server time, often GMT plus 2 or 3.
And that assumption is exactly how day traders lose funded accounts.
It is. You have to know precisely when the firm's servers calculate the daily rollover. Is it 4:000 p.m. Eastern, 5:000 p.m. Eastern, midnight GMT?
Because if you hold a trade 1 minute past their arbitrary deadline,
Their system registers it as an unauthorized overnight hold, and you lose the account instantly.
and beyond just the rule breach, there is a massive mechanical danger here at the rollover.
The liquidity gap.
Exactly. Let's say the server rollover is at 5:00 p.m. Eastern. That is exactly when the New York session closes, before Sydney fully ramps up. Global liquidity just vanishes.
It dries up completely.
And when liquidity dries up, the spread between the bid and the ask price can instantly gap by 20 or 30 pips. So even if the actual underlying price of the asset didn't move a single inch, that sudden spread widening on the broker's end can trigger a massive floating loss for a few seconds.
Which brings us perfectly to the deadliest trap in the entire industry, and the core of Pillar 3, risk tolerance alignment.
Okay, break this down for me.
Well, you can have the budget, and the firm might allow your holding times, but how does the firm's algorithm calculate your losses during events like that 5:00 p.m. spread widening? This all comes down to drawdown rules.
Right.
Let me give you the killer metric from our sources here. Daily drawdown violations account for a staggering 41.4% of all failed accounts.
Nearly half of everyone who fails does so because they tripped the daily loss limit. That is massive.
It's the #1 killer of accounts.
So we need to break down the actual mechanics of these drawdown rules. The sources highlight two main types: static drawdown and trailing drawdown. Walk me through how these actually function in a live environment, because clearly traders are getting this wrong.
The distinction is literally the difference between survival and sudden account failure. Let's start with static drawdown. A static drawdown maintains a fixed, unmoving loss limit based on your initial starting balance.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. So if you purchase a $100,000 account and the firm has a static drawdown of 10%, your account cannot drop below $90,000. It is a fixed floor.
Wait, so if I have a static drawdown, I can theoretically take a loss, drop down to $91,000, bounce all the way back up to $110,000, and the firm doesn't care.
They don't care at all.
That $90,000 floor never moves.
It never moves. The floor is permanently anchored to the starting balance. That provides a tremendous amount of psychological safety.
Okay, I like static drawdown.
Most people do.
Wow.
But trailing drawdown functions completely differently, and it is highly punitive. Trailing drawdown actively adjusts upward as your account hits new high water marks.
Right, it tracks your highest open profit.
Yes. So imagine you have that same $100,000 account with a trailing drawdown of $5,000. You enter a trade, the market surges in your favor, and your floating balance hits $105,000.
Okay, doing great so far.
Right. But your drawdown floor, which started at $95,000, just trailed right behind you. The floor is now sitting at $100,000.
Oh, wow. It's like climbing a ladder where the rungs below you just dissolve into thin air as you climb.
That's a terrifying way to put it, but yes.
If you step down even an inch to catch your balance, you fall into the abyss. Like if I make $5,000, my floor moves up. If the market pulls back a bit and I close the trade at $101,000, I'm still technically in profit overall.
You are.
But because the floor moved to $100,000, I only have $1,000 of breathing room left.
You've captured the exact psychological toll of the trailing drawdown right there. You are literally penalized for making money if you give even a fraction of it back to the market.
That sounds exhausting.
It forces the trader into a state of constant dynamic risk adjustment. You start micromanaging trades, choking off your winners early just to prevent the trailing drawdown from creeping up on you. It fundamentally alters how you interact with the market.
Which goes back to the 5-0 p.m. liquidity gap we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
If you have a trailing drawdown that has followed you all day, and suddenly the spread gap's 20 pips at 5:00 p.m., that artificial momentary loss will clip your trailing drawdown line, and the server will instantly terminate your account.
Boom. Account gone.
You didn't even make a bad trade, you just got crushed by the mechanics of the drawdown trailing too closely.
And the data strongly supports that conclusion. That is why, for conservative traders who prioritize long-term survival over rapid growth, our sources suggest actively seeking out firms offering 10% or higher max drawdown limits, and preferably static.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, a wider static drawdown buffer is often the absolute bare minimum required to absorb normal, everyday market volatility without getting stopped out by the firm's automated risk engine.
Okay, so we have the three-factor framework fully mapped out. Budget, strategy, risk.
Yeah, those are the three pillars.
But theory is useless without application. Let's see what this looks like when we actually synthesize these constraints into real-world choices. Let's walk through 3 different operational constraints based on the research.
Okay, let's do it.
Suppose I'm a trader with a hyper-aggressive scalping methodology, but I'm incredibly constrained on capital. I only have $200 total. Where do I go?
Okay, with a strict $200 limit, Pillar 1, the budget dictates you must account for at least one reset. So you cannot spend more than $50 to $75 per evaluation.
Right, which instantly restricts you to the micro tier, the $5,000 accounts.
Correct. But Pillar 2 is the real filter here. As a scalper, you cannot survive minimum trade duration rules. So based on the industry notes, the specific set of constraints points you toward firms like Aqua-funded or Goat-funded Trader.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, they offer the $5,000 accounts to fit the financial limitation. And historically, their rule sets do not utilize arbitrary time limits on trade duration, allowing algorithmic or manual scalping to actually function as intended.
That makes a lot of sense. You use the constraints to filter the noise. But what if my strategy relies on macroeconomic trends? Say I've got $500 in risk capital and I want to let my trades ride all week. I don't want to be forced out on a Friday.
Well, a $500 budget gives you significantly more runway to absorb failure, so you can afford multiple attempts at a slightly larger account tier. But Pillar 2 is non-negotiable here. You must secure overnight and weekend holding allowances.
Because without that, your swing trading strategy is dead on arrival.
Exactly, and many budget-oriented firms strictly prohibit this. You really have to look at legacy firms structured for this methodology.
Like who?
FTMO's specific swing account tier, or a firm like the 5%, they are engineered specifically for this. They offer the structural flexibility to hold positions across daily and weekly market rollovers, which your strategy absolutely requires to capture those broader market moves.
Okay, let's look at a worst-case constraint. A trader has exactly $100. They trade intraday, opening and closing positions within the same session. Where does the framework leave them?
Oh, it leaves them in a highly precarious position. Financially, to maintain any semblance of a reset buffer, they are locked into the absolute cheapest entry-level accounts available, likely under $30 an attempt.
That's super tight.
It is, but the critical filter for Pillar 2 and 3 here is that they must meticulously investigate the EOD liquidity and rollover policies. Since they are trading intraday on a razor-thin budget, their drawdown limits will be exceptionally tight.
So they have to watch the clock like a hog.
Absolutely.
But
if they don't manually close their trades well before the broker-specific server rollover time, that spread widening we discussed earlier will instantly breach their account. They have to read the fine print on server time zones, not local time.
Okay. So let's say a listener applies this framework perfectly. They match their budget, their strategy aligns with the rules, and the drawdown mechanics fit their risk profile perfectly. They are ready to deploy capital.
Right.
But we still have an elephant in the room, vetting the actual corporate entity. I mean, over 80 firms vanished recently. Even if a firm's rules look incredible on paper, what are the mechanical red flags that indicate a firm is about to collapse or is operating in bad faith?
This is huge. Spotting bad actors is just as critical as analyzing drawdown. The sources highlight several systemic red flags, and the most immediate one is payout friction.
Payout friction.
Yeah. If you look at third-party forums and see a pattern of delayed withdrawals or traders getting trapped in endless KYC verification loops, you walk away immediately.
Let's dig into that because KYC stands for Know Your Customer, which is just a standard regulatory requirement. How are these firms weaponizing a standard regulation?
Well, firms know they're legally obligated to verify identity to prevent money laundering. But bad actors will weaponize this administrative process.
How so?
When a trader requests a massive payout, suddenly the firm rejects their ID photo for, glare, or demands notarized utility bills from 3 years ago.
Or they claim the video verification was blurry.
Exactly. They trap the trader's money in an endless administrative loop. The firm maintains possession of the capital, often earning interest on it, while the trader burns out trying to jump through bureaucratic hoops.
That is incredibly predatory. They use compliance as a shield to deny payouts. What else is in the data?
Arbitrary rule enforcement, specifically retroactive policy changes.
Meaning they change the rules after you start.
Yes. There are documented instances of firms changing the evaluation parameters after a trader has paid the fee, or suddenly classifying a standard trading style as toxic order flow right at the exact moment a payout is requested.
Unbelievable.
You also have to look at consistency rules. This is a massive trap.
Break down the mechanics of a consistency rule for me. How does that mathematically work against the trader?
So, a firm's marketing might loudly proclaim no limits on lot sizes, no restrictions on profits. But buried deep in the terms and conditions, they enforce a 20% consistency rule.
Which does what?
This rule mathematically caps your performance. It states that no single trade can account for more than 20% of your total aggregate profit.
Oh, wow. So if I grind away, making small, consistent gains, and then I catch a massive macroeconomic move, say an interest rate decision goes my way, and I make a $10,000 profit on one phenomenal trade, what happens?
If that $10,000 trade makes up more than 20% of your total account profit for the month, the firm uses the consistency rule to invalidate the trade.
Are you serious?
I am. They argue you aren't a consistent trader, you just got lucky. So they deny the payout based on the very massive winner they encouraged you to catch in the first place.
They give you the rope, tell you to swing as high as you can, and then penalize you for actually doing it.
That's exactly the kind of structural trap the framework is designed to avoid.
Any other red flags?
The final red flag is hidden inactivity fees. Some firms will quietly drain your account balance or even terminate the funded account entirely if you don't execute a trade every, say, 14 days, and they won't send a single warning email.
That is just sneaky.
It is. If we connect this to the bigger picture, protecting your operational capital from hostile business practices is arguably more important than protecting it from a bad read on the market. The market is neutral. A bad firm is actively working against you.
So what does this all mean? As we consolidate everything we've covered today, the core takeaway is absolute clarity on your own operational constraints.
Yes, exactly.
Success in the proprietary trading industry does not come from looking at a glossy website and clicking on the highest dollar amount you can afford. It doesn't come from trusting the marketing about 80-20 profit splits.
No, it really doesn't.
Success depends entirely on matching your individual, specific trading characteristics, your true budget runway, the mechanical needs of your strategy, and your tolerance for dynamic drawdown risk to the underlying architecture of a firm. You have to find a system where you are structurally compatible.
I couldn't agree more. And as you move forward and apply this three-factor framework, I want to leave you with a lingering question to ponder on your own, based purely on the data we've analyzed today.
All right, let's hear it.
Think about the reality of the math here. We know the average trader spends $800 on 3 failed attempts. We know a staggering 93% of funded traders never see a single payout. Yet there are over 200 firms operating right now, many generating massive lucrative revenues. So ask yourself, is the explosive growth of the prop firm industry entirely subsidized by the systematic mathematical failure of that 93%?
Oh, that's heavy.
If the rules, the drawdowns, and the server rollovers are designed to ensure the vast majority will fail, are you truly entering into a partnership with these firms, or are you simply the product?
That is definitely something to think about. The next time you see a neon-lit advertisement promising you instant 6-figure funding and a shortcut to financial freedom, Keep the mechanics of that 5.00 p.m. liquidity gap in mind.
Absolutely.
Keep the disappearing rungs of the trailing drawdown ladder in mind. Use the framework, find a firm that actually supports your edge, and fiercely protect your capital. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you on the next Deep Dive.